Good morning. I'm going to jump right into it today because I'm going to try to minimize the FaceTime that I have. I've got a special guest for you this morning. I just want to update you a few things. Number one, we just returned from the Cardist conference where we, and I repeat the word we, our company won a lot of awards. It's actually on the Century 21 blog. It's been posted on Facebook. And I highly suggest that you share those things out to your sphere and talk about who you are as a company and the recognition that you have. The highlight of all the things that we won at that conference was a nomination for the second year in a row for the Cardist Cup. And I want to put that in perspective for you in case you didn't read the blog. Only maybe 1.5% of the brokers in the Realogy entire umbrella have even the opportunity to receive the business as a principal broker. And the nomination for that cup puts us in the top 1% of that 1.5%. And that's the second year in a row that we've been seen that way. So it's an amazing accomplishment. I think you all know that we won platinum in every one of our territories. We won the 5-star Circle of Excellence in every territory. We won the top inventory management company in all categories across the country. We were recognized for something called the Affinity Summit Award, which said for all of our affinity clients we had the highest combined service and conversion rates. So we're really just doing some amazing things out there, and it's a result of your hard work. The good news is that it's paying off. I'll give you some numbers. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to look a little bit to my right here and just catch some of the numbers. But in April of last year, we did 410 units, and in through April, the average sales price was $343,000. It's always lowest sales price in that first quarter, and it's tracking for years and years. Through April of this year, we've done 517 transactions at a sales price of $359,000. So there's a 26% increase through 4 months in the number of units that we're doing, and there's a 4.7% increase in price in those units that we're doing. So that's really healthy on both equations, and something that I know that you're feeling. I walk down the hallways and I hear people with 9 ratified contracts, 6 ratified contracts. People are saying they're busy and things are picking up. Just to give you some sense of what the future looks like, our May so far with what we've closed and what we have pending, if everything came through, that'd be 269 transactions. We've never broken 200 transactions before, and May is traditionally not the busiest time for us. So things are really on a scale that we have not seen before. In fact, in the entire pipeline, there are 471 transactions that are under contract as of yesterday. And I'm sure that that continues to grow. I can see the pile sitting on India's desk. So great things are happening. I hope everybody's as excited as I am. I know it's really hard work. I know that we ask for an awful lot. But I hope that when we all kind of step back from it every once in a while, we see, hey, wow, we're part of something very, very special here. That said, I'm going to introduce what we're doing this month. A couple weeks ago I reached out to your branch leaders and I asked your branch leaders, could they please talk to you guys and find out what's happening out there. What are the most common objections or problems that you're running into with either sellers or buyers? And so that's the handout that you have in front of you. And I asked our CEO, Todd Hetherington, to talk to you about what he might say if asked or put in the situation of some of these things. Remember that it's sales, and every answer is not perfect, and every way that Todd expresses things may not be the way that you express them. The key is that you're practiced, you've thought about it, you know what you want to say with conviction. I think that's the one thing you'll pick up, or that I picked up in having an interview with Todd, is that I think he would sell ice to the Eskimos. He has that ability to say, this is what I think, and say it with conviction. And I think that really is the skill set that all of us want to work on. And I really think that comes through practice. That doesn't come through on the fly. It doesn't come through having said it the first time in front of a customer. Sometimes you will say something in front of a customer. Go back and write it down and work on that. And let that be part of your natural conversation, and I think that we'll find best results possible out of these situations when we face them. So with that, I'm going to break into what happened with Todd. I think you'll be interested.
Quite frankly, Scott, many people ask the exact same question about what is our commission rate. We charge 3% per operative side. There are many of our competitors out there that will charge less than that. Our competitors within the Cardis network may or may not charge less than that. You've thrown out the number of 2%. Some people will do a flat fee. And I can point you in the direction of those if you think they're going to do the best service for you. The reality is we need to focus on your best interests and what your bottom line net to you as the seller is. Everything else is totally irrelevant. I can tell you that we are an award-winning company. We won the Platinum Award. The reason we won that award is because we have the lowest days on market, we have the highest list price to sales price values, and we get our sellers the highest net bottom line dollars in their pocket. That's what matters to them. Now that we've gone through the listing presentation and the consultation, let's take a couple seconds just to talk about pricing. Please do not shoot the messenger. The reality is that we're going to take a snapshot in time, and this is a quasi-scientific process. You're going to see beyond a reasonable doubt. We're going to look at all of the numbers on a comparative market analysis. We're going to look at the 3 most recent, most similar, most proximate properties that have sold right in this neighborhood to determine what value and what range we should be marketing your home. It's an extremely volatile market. Just in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen prices decrease. We've seen prices now start to rise. So I'm going to focus on the snapshot in time tonight, and we're going to determine that range that you are comfortable selling your home for. There are certain factors that we talk about that have no bearing whatsoever on the value of your home. And quite frankly, what you paid for it is irrelevant. What you owe on it right now is absolutely irrelevant. What matters is those 3 most recent, most similar, most proximate properties and the value that they have. It used to be in years past that short sales and foreclosures were excluded from this comparative market analysis. That's not the case in light of where we've been over the last 4 and 5 years. Short sales, unfortunately, and foreclosures, unfortunately, have bearing on your price. So we'll take a look at the snapshot in time now. We'll determine whether or not you think that's a fair range that you can it's palatable for you to effectively market the home, and I'll tell you whether or not I think I'm able to market at that price. Let's also talk about price reductions. We're not going to set anything up right now, but I'm going to stay in constant communication with you. We're going to take a look at this in 2-week intervals. 2 weeks from now is a different snapshot in time. I can't tell you what's going to happen. You can't tell me what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. There may be properties that are put on the market that will adversely affect the sales price and the asking price of your home. There might be properties on the market or properties that sell that actually will have us increase the sales price on your home. Don't know. We're going to cross that bridge when we get to it, but I can tell you I'm going to give you constant communication. You're going to hear from me more than you ever wanted to, and we're going to stay in tune with what's going on in the marketplace. We're going to focus in again on your needs, your wants, and your desires. We're going to take a look at a geographic region that makes sense from a commute that's palatable to both of your offices. If we get outside of that comfort zone, or quite frankly, if you think you're outside of my comfort zone, I can assure you, this is the Washington, D.C. metro area. We have 15 military installations within a 30-mile radius in the federal government. This is not small-town Americana. We don't have just a little an agent that has a geographic boundary that they work this zip code or this county. We are cross-jurisdictional. Many of our agents here are tri-licensed in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. With the advent of the Internet and with the advent of information, that information is power and that information is knowledge that I can impart on you. We're going to take the time that if we get in the outskirts and in other areas that might, quite frankly, be 20 miles away from where we're sitting right now, I can show you how we can figure out, and again, get back to a quasi-scientific analysis to determine the value of that home. We're also going to be able to do our due diligence on that neighborhood, on that subdivision, on that builder, on the pools and the communities, very simply because we've got the power of the internet, we've got the power of the connections that we've got within a company. We have 750 licensees out here, and each one of us, is there any one of us that knows every single subdivision within every single neighborhood? Absolutely not. But somebody within this company has the answers. Let's answer your question, because I know that you don't know me from Adam, and you are not certain if I'm worth a darn. And I think I am, and I need to prove that to you. And if you have any hesitation, let me explain agency and how that works. In light of, or in the absence of any written agreement, all realtors represent the seller. And that doesn't hold you in good stead when it comes time to negotiate. We have to treat all parties fairly, but we do not have to negotiate in your best interest unless we have a written agency agreement. And I'd encourage you to do that, whether it is me or whether it's somebody else. You should enter into a buyer agency contract. Quite frankly, in a few short months, it's not going to be an option in the state of Virginia. It's going to be mandatory because they realize it makes good sense. So I'd encourage you, if you're going to be interviewing agents, interview 2, 3, 300, doesn't matter. Find one that you're comfortable with, hopefully that's me, and enter into a buyer agency agreement. I will tell you, I will make the commitment to you. This is a two-way street. You will have my loyalty. You'll have my fiduciary and statutory responsibility back to you. I'll give you everything I've got. If you have any hesitation, test the waters with me for a couple of days. See if I'm worth a darn. If I am, extend that. If I'm not, cut me loose. Let's answer your question, because I know that you don't know me from Adam, and you are not certain if I'm worth a darn. And I think I am, and I need to prove that to you. And if you have any hesitation, let me explain agency and how that works. In light of, or in the absence of any written agreement, all realtors represent the seller. And that doesn't hold you in good stead when it comes time to negotiate. We have to treat all parties fairly, but we do not have to negotiate in your best interest unless we have a written agency agreement. And I'd encourage you to do that, whether it is me or whether it's somebody else. You should enter into a buyer agency contract. Quite frankly, in a few short months, it's not going to be an option in the state of Virginia. It's going to be mandatory because they realize it makes good sense. So I'd encourage you, if you're going to be interviewing agents, interview 2, 3, 300, doesn't matter. Find one that you're comfortable with, hopefully that's me, and enter into a buyer agency agreement. I will tell you, I will make the commitment to you. This is a two-way street. You will have my loyalty. You'll have my fiduciary and statutory responsibility back to you. I'll give you everything I've got. If you have any hesitation, test the waters with me for a couple of days. See if I'm worth a darn. If I am, extend that. If I'm not, cut me loose. Susie and Jeff, I understand you guys have a little reservation because you're only going to be here. You're active duty military. You may only be here for as little as a year. You may be here for 3 or 4 years. I can tell you unequivocally, having been in this marketplace for the last 2.5 decades, I buy property every single year, residential, commercial. Now is truly the best time to be picking up a piece of property in Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland, D.C. metro area. And here's why. Interest rates are at unprecedented lows. Rents are actually increasing. So if you're looking at renting, that's fine. That's very safe. The reality is you've got no tax break whatsoever for your next 1, 2, 3 years. What I'd encourage you to do, if it makes sense, and you're interested in increasing your investment portfolio, is to consider purchasing a home. And let's run the numbers and compare, while you are here, what the cash flow analysis looks like to determine a comparison of rent versus buy. And then if you leave this area 2 years, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, and it gets converted to an investment property, we'll run the numbers and compare the after-tax comparison on what you can rent it for, as far as the revenue coming in, versus what it's going to cost to carry it. I can pretty much tell you, because I've been an avid investor, that you will be hard-pressed to find any other investment out there that's going to have a greater return on your investment than real estate. You are leveraging other people's money. When you get into it, military, whether you can use your VA, no money down, that's the most phenomenal leveraging, because you're leveraging the VA program and you haven't put anything into it, and you've got a return of, pick a number, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. It's not a short-term investment. The reality is, if you are looking at only a 1 year, you are not going to be able to. It's not liquid, and you are not going to be able to flip this property in 1 year. You may not be able to flip this property in 3 years. But if you are looking at a long-term investment over a 7 to 10 year period, and you time it, you work your timing, and you either flip it and take that and parlay it into something else. We can even talk about at that point a Starker tax-deferred 1031 exchange, where you can leverage that first property and parlay that into 2 or 3 other properties. It's opening up a plethora of investment opportunities, and I just think it makes great sense to at least consider the rent versus buy analysis. All right, let's take a few seconds before we actually hit the streets. We've taken the time where I've gotten inside your head. I get to know a little bit about what you're looking for, and hopefully the properties that I show you today are going to fit the bill. But let me set a realistic expectation before you emotionally fall in love with any property at all. I just had a listing presentation last night, and I talked to the seller and told them there are certain things that don't affect their value of their home, and it's what they paid for it, and it's what they owe on it. I'm going to tell you the same thing. The 2 most important things that are of great importance to a buyer would be how much cash they're coming out of their pocket in order to get into this home, up front, and then on a monthly basis. From a comparative market analysis standpoint, that is a quasi-scientific process. We're going to be able to go through and take a look at a snapshot in time of what that property is worth. So when you lock and load on property number 27, we're going to take a look at where property number 27 fares in comparison to what else is going on, the 3 most recent, most similar, most proximate settlements that are in line with that home. What I need to ask you is we're going to really take a litmus test and see how badly you want that home. All right? We are now in a market totally different than where we were 12 months ago. We're starting to see multiple offers, and we are starting to see escalation clauses. I can't tell you that it is necessarily fully a seller's market. It depends on where you end up. But subdivision by subdivision, we are turning into sellers having a little bit more of the upper hand. So from an expectation standpoint, you may have read every book under the sun. You may have spoken to every expert known to man. This is what I do for a living. For the last 2 decades, this is what I do day in, day out. The markets change. Everything is volatile. Right now, I can tell you, look you dead in the eye and tell you that you need to be realistic in what you offer. We need to make sure. We don't know if a seller is just smoking dope and they have the price listed too high or too low. We won't know that until we do a comparative market analysis. So you're going to get emotionally involved with a home. I'm not. My job is to stay aloof, if you will, as a disinterested third party. And I'm going to bring in the quasi-scientific analysis, and we're going to look at what the comparative market analysis shows. And at that point, we'll come up with a realistic offer. I understand that you guys are getting advice from everybody under the sun. You're going to have family, you're going to have friends, you're going to have books, you're going to have everybody giving you and pulling you in different directions and telling you, watch out for this and make sure you're doing this. Guys, this is my job. I take it very seriously. I am a professional realtor. My job is to make sure that I do the best I possibly can to represent you. I'm going to respectfully ask you. You can voice that concern, but I'm probably going to poo-poo it away and let you know. I appreciate that, and if it factors in, we'll talk about it. If it doesn't, I'm going to ask you to just totally filter that and forget it.